Welcome in, everyone. My name is Gracey with Northern Astrology, here tonight to continue my series, an astrological profile featuring the Real Housewives of Bravo TV. As some of you may follow along with them, I certainly have. If you missed the first stream with Sonia Morgan's chart, I have that on my YouTube playlist, and you can go to my home screen on my YouTube and scroll down to an astrological profile, Real Housewives series, and I am there. So, on top of my lately weekly sports astrology live streams and my other adventures, like, I don't know, writing a book in 2025, being a published author, this has been a very busy and fun time for me. I have been doing a lot of appearances, features, showing up left and right places that maybe traditionally astrologers would not appear, but it's been super fun. And I accredit a lot of it to being willing to step outside, the usual for a lot of people. The usual would be like, okay, you're an astrologer, stick to having astrology conversations. And I'm like, no. I'm going to be on the news. I'm going to be in sports betting conversations. I want to be the witch that everyone refers to in the sports betting world. I think that's hilarious. So it's been super fun. But one of my favorite series in the world has been The Real Housewives. It all started in Orange County, I believe back in 2006, which I don't want to age myself yet. You guys, if you've been watching this channel long enough, know how old I am. I graduated high school in 2006. So this was right around the time of The Hills and the OC and Laguna Beach and all that stuff that came out, and was very much about California. There was just like a huge push of information about California. So California has always had a special place in my heart. I lived out there temporarily on and off when I was in the horse industry. I was lucky enough to be out in Burbank and LA area at the LA Equestrian Center as well. So when I was preparing for this episode, I was really excited just because I'm like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to go out to Malibu area and out to Orange County and, see that area more. I look forward to that one day. But, the big thing now is how we can help California, how we can help the LA County residents. We're talking about not only Los Angeles, but the Pacific Palisades, Altadena, Eaton, all the areas around, where the fires have been impacting people and the nature, aka wildlife and animals. And Emily Simpson, if you guys follow her on Instagram, it's a very fun follow, of course, but she is also sharing a lot of resources this week. So there's no way that I could do an episode about a housewife from Orange County and from California at this moment in time and not offer resources and things like that. So I am going to share some of those resources and make sure that you guys can access that online. I am going to be doing that on, let's see here, on my Twitter. I'm really good at the live stuff, so don't mind me. There is a link to this feed that I'm going to share on Twitter as well as YouTube. And that way you guys can share like donations or just retweet it or copy the link and share it out. This is the link of the rescue that Emily was wanting to have with the horses. And so it is definitely I'm going to make sure that this is muted. I'm trying to share it in the chat. There we go. I'm going to put it in the restream thing because I know that it works there. So you guys can see the link that I have. And I know that it's on YouTube. So it is to the link tree of the places that we are fundraising for the California fires. And that is the horse rescue that Emily shared earlier, as well as Storm the Martian on Twitter. If you guys are lucky enough to follow that account, very much known for incredible photography with the moon and capturing Luna in all her phases. And they are out in LA. So the first thing I asked was, 1, are you okay? 2, how can we help? How can I help? Is there anything you need, like basic necessities? And they said simply let people know that people in Altadena need help too. So there are links that I will be posting to Altadena fundraisers as well. So if you are watching on YouTube, once again, I will be sharing those on there because I actually know how to do this live. I can share things and it'll be easy because I have saved um, so many different funds. One on YouTube that I'm sharing right now is a link to help the mountain rescue workers in Altadena. And then the next one is Altadena Girls Recovery. So Altadena Fire Recovery for girls. So it's like teenage girls that have hygiene products, just like the normal things that girls need, like just the basic hygiene stuff, and to resupply and to have the clothes, and especially clothes that are stylish and, okay for, to wear in public. I know that there's all sorts of fashion trends that are huge don'ts. I probably wear all of them, let's be real, except for my jewelry, because I know that Shadana's jewelry, astrological jewelry, always has me covered, which is nice. But, I wish that I could donate all the things in the world to California, everyone who needs them right now. So as much as you can help, please do. But like I said, there's no way that we can talk about Real Housewives of Orange County and Emily from the Real Housewives of Orange County without thinking of the LA community and area and sharing resources and ways to help them. So thank you so much for, if any of you donate and if any of you follow those links and are able to share. It's definitely going to make a big difference in those lives. I wanted to share stuff that's like directly impacting people, and also the link that Emily had shared on her Instagram with fundraising for the horse rescue. So I found Altadena resources for Storm the Martian request and or just a suggestion, as well as the horse rescue that is happening all over the LA area. So definitely something to consider if you are able to. But we are here tonight because we are celebrating the chart of the magical Emily Simpson. Part of what I was doing for the research of this project was really interesting because there's not a lot of research on the housewives that is accurate, including her date of birth. So her date of birth is listed as January 19th in most of the bio sites that are out there. So we are going to update that. I have the proper birth time as well as date, and have the place. I originally had the place completely different. Like, if you guys don't know, Ohio is a big state. It is very expansive, and one part of Ohio can be a completely different area terrain of another part. And I thought that it was in one area of Ohio, and it turned out to be in another area, Madison versus Middletown. So just because the high school was named Madison High School does not mean that she was born and raised in Madison, Ohio. That is up by the lake and not even close to where Middletown is. So definitely was glad to have that clarified. And yeah, it went from being the chart went from being a Cancer rising to a Gemini rising at 29 degrees, which is a very powerful degree, and it's a critical degree in degree theory. So I'm excited to take a look. I'm excited to dive in with you all. So without further ado, I'm going to let you all look at Emily's chart, notice anything that comes up, and then we're going to dive right in. Okay, so we are going to come back and I will have the chart pulled up here. I can adjust this. Number one live editor, remember? This is a live show, so I am doing my best to make sure that we can still see her chart and me doing the explanation. So, bam, we got it. There is plenty to go over here on Emily's chart, but I wanted to start out with my process and how I kind of break this down. So we have January 18th, 1976 on a Sunday at 3:24 p.m. So Leo moon born on a Sunday. I love that. Definitely fun. Even if you don't know what time you were born, if you know what day you were born, the day of the week can definitely be very influential. So I definitely recommend at least, I know that sometimes like having your birth time is a privilege. As someone who just recently got their birth time in the last 6 months, I had a rectified time that I had used for all the readings, all the consultations that I had ever purchased from other astrologers, and all the information that I read about myself was from a rectified birth time. And I ended up being exactly an hour off. So that was really cool. I was pretty proud of myself for being able to do that. So I reached out to Emily, and this was a little bit ago, and I think it was right after my Sonia Morgan astrological profile live stream. And I reached out to Emily and I was like, hey, so I love doing astrology charts for reality TV stars and especially the Real Housewives. And I was wondering if I could get your birth time. And, you know, that's a very strange question to ask most people, right? And Emily rose to the occasion and reached out to her mom, which I think is the best, and got her birth time. And I really appreciated that because it makes kind of like watching TV more enjoyable. I don't know about you all, but as an astrologer, as an astrology enthusiast, the moment that I start watching a new series, or like my favorite genre of TV is by far based off of a true story. I love biopics. I love documentaries, documentaries about real things that happened, obviously, and you know the behind the scenes. There's like a documentary on Lisa Frank, like about the dark side of Lisa Frank, which I'm just like, okay, I'm laughing only because if you are familiar with Lisa Frank, you understand that the color and fever dream of it all can be a little bit much sometimes. So the Lisa Frankness, the dark side of it all is just kind of like, oh my gosh, that's comical. But hey, there's a dark side to everything if you look hard enough. And while I am not one to focus on all that, you can ask my clients and even my friends who are like, please tell me all the terrible stuff that's going to happen to me. I'm like, no, I will tell you the things that you can do to navigate this time ahead and ways that you can tap into the world around you. But I am going to just simply warn you and brace you for the things that could happen, not just be like, this is going on, you will have a horrible time. Like, there's no absolutes, there's no infinite answer, or there's no absolute answers. There's an infinite amount of answers in astrology as well as life in general. So whether you're on your spiritual journey or you are head in the sand saying, I don't need to be spiritual, I don't believe in astrology, screw all this, it still impacts you. So doesn't really matter how you see it and how you kind of organize it. Astrology and the impact of the realms that we cannot see are ongoing all around us all the time. So with that being said, I want to dive into this magical chart because I feel as though when people talk about reality stars in general, they do it in a way that can be quite callous at times and quite like not treating them like people just because they signed up to put their air or like to put their life on air and to air out all their moments on camera does not mean necessarily that they are like super comfortable. So I'm not going to dive into the dark psyche of this chart, right? That is something that if Emily is curious at a later date and wants to dive into her personality, and honestly, one thing that I find really helpful is helping people see their shadow astrology. Shadow astrology is something that I have come up with myself. And I've mentioned this before on the stream, either through my sports astrology or through the astrological profile. Shadow astrology is looking at the 12-hour opposite time of your birth. So if you were born at 12:15 p.m., then the opposite would be 12:15 a.m. 12:15 a.m. Your opposite would be 12:15 p.m. and so on. So it's a way to see like who you are when no one's watching, or who you are at your lowest points, or who you are at your most wounded. And those are ways to kind of incorporate those themes into your life. So definitely take a look at that if you are advanced enough to look at your astrology chart on your own. If not, reach out to me. I love helping people see their magic, and it doesn't cost anything to email me or reach out to me, right? We can always start somewhere. I have plenty of people that reach out and let me know when there's like errors in my workbooks or duplicate pages in my workbooks. That's definitely happened. And it's so much of a labor of love when we put together these projects in astrology that I love it when people reach out and they're like, hey, I really loved your project. I have a question about this thing that you wrote though, because it's asking like about a piece of my brain. And I think that's pretty magical. So speaking of brains and people being magical, like being a Gemini rising is a superpower in this lifetime. It's also quite a loaded gift, right? We are looking at the rising sign. So I wonder if I could I know that I need to get a pointer for my displays here. Like I really need to get something to where I can just show you. But if you're looking at the chart, because don't look at the center. If you're brand new to astrology, don't look at the center of the chart. Pretend all those lines and all those little symbols aren't there. And just look at the outside, right? So if it's at 9 o'clock, excuse me. If you are looking at the 9 o'clock position, like a clock would be, that's where you see the two columns with the lines on top and bottom. That is the Gemini symbol, as well as the 29 degree of Gemini. So when we look at degrees in astrology, I just want to say while I'm here that you can like not agree that degree theory is impactful. You can pretend that you have a much better way of looking at things, and that's fine. But like to say rude things about degree theory or the Sabian symbols just because you're not fluent in them is whack. And I would appreciate if we left those things in 2024 where they belong. Technically, we are still in 2024 because we are still in the zodiac cycle. The new year truly starts March 20th, Aries season, spring equinox. It's definitely when the true new year is. But we can go ahead and pretend this year because, like you may have heard in my previous streams or in the Astrology of 2025 roundtable, that is also available on my YouTube, that the new year this year were when the nodes were at 0 degrees Aries and 0 degrees Libra. That is known as a very karmic and kind of balancing time in the minds of the ancients and their kind of like beliefs and outlook on astrology. So definitely felt like a karmic reset of sorts, a renewal of sorts, and launching a book on that date definitely came with its fair share of complications. We've been sold out on Amazon, so we're hoping to get that fixed. But back to the magical woman at hand here. We are looking at the Capricorn Queen, Emily Simpson's chart. Her sun is at 27 degrees Capricorn. Her rising is at 29 degrees Capricorn. Excuse me. And if you're looking at all that and you're kind of like, wondering if which one is the most important. Yeah, sun signs are important. We're doing this during Capricorn season, and that's why I'm doing Emily Simpson's chart, because we started with Sagittarius. Now we're going to Capricorn. So yes, she is a Capricorn sun, but what I'm explaining is the rising sign, which is that Gemini, 29 degrees of Gemini at that 9 o'clock position on the chart, if you are watching on that. So definitely something that you can follow along with if you wanted to at home with your own astrological tools. I've got my book, my default book The 360 Degrees of Wisdom by Linda Hill, the queen of the Sabian symbols. She's somebody that I absolutely look up to in so many ways. But not only that, she was in my magazine, which was an incredible interview. If you're not familiar, I also have a magazine called The Northern. It is free. It is available everywhere. Not available everywhere. It is available on my website, but it is an ebook, so you can take it everywhere. That's where I was going with that. I was a little too focused on making sure that I'm smoothly going through these transitions, but I wanted to talk about the rising sign, which is the theme and the flavor to the chart. Not only do I use this approach in the personal charts that I read, also in the sports astrology charts that I read. So if you are noticing some overlap, that's because this is my process. So first, I'm going to take a drink of water. Nothing like trying to talk with a dry mouth. It's not fun. I'm a yapper, but I have my limits. So the rising degree is super important because it can tell you a little bit about yourself. 29 degrees in degree theory is considered a critical degree, right? It is a degree that we're like, okay, what exactly is this here? Like, do we have a catastrophe? Do we have a massive upgrade? You never know. With the 29 degree, it is known as the anaretic degree, which is all over the place and chaotic at best. I don't want to say combustive. I want to say that it's like a fiery reactive degree, but it's like that when you provoke it, right? So 29 degrees of Gemini is the karmic degree that we are looking at. I use a 3-degree system when I look at any specific single degree, right? So for 29 degrees, Gemini, the karmic degree is going to be 29. The truth degree is going to be the 30 degrees of Gemini, and the solution degree will be 1 degree of Cancer. So that's how you can kind of break down degrees and the degree theory and Sabian symbol combination. I look at the 29, the 30, and the 1. There's something, the 30 is also the 0 degree. So 0 is also known as the highest absorption and purest form of that sign. So for that to be Gemini 30/0 degrees Cancer, that is a pretty sensitive and open sign. So when you look at Gemini risings, my mother is a Gemini rising and is one of the funniest women I've ever met. And she's like secretly funny. She is not like the type of funny that it's like in your face and out loud. It creeps up on you. It's kind of funny. So anyways, being a Gemini rising is all about embracing duality, surfing that, wave of light and dark, the isolation and the social, the jester and the one that wants to be entertained, the, one that wants to know everything and everyone, and the one that wants to hide and not be seen for a while, the one that wants to perceive everyone but doesn't want to be perceived themselves. I have a Gemini moon. I know not exactly what this plight is, but being ruled by Gemini also means you're ruled by Mercury. So being ruled by Mercury, you're very sharp, your witty intellect is something that really gets to you in a way that's like exciting for you to meet somebody that's also in the same brain waves as you are, or someone that's smarter than you and likes talking and explaining things to people. It's very much third house energy, right? So being a Gemini rising, your third house is already going to be a place that you can really have some clues. While I thought Emily was a Cancer rising, I thought her moon was her chart ruler. So I was very excited about diving into that because I'm also a Cancer rising. But because of the place that I had her being born was off and it was the wrong one, it ended up being a Gemini rising, which is at the final, like the very last part of Gemini. So very, very close to being a Cancer rising, but being ruled by Mercury means that we will look next at that Mercury in the 8th house at 7 degrees Aquarius, and that is also station retrograde. But 29 degrees Gemini in the Sabian symbols is represented by the first mockingbird of spring sings from the treetop. Some of the quotes about this is from Ralph Waldo Emerson is every man is a borrower and a mimic. Life is theatrical and literature a quotation. Henry Van Dyke says, use what talent you possess. The woods would be very silent if no birds sang except those that sang best. So it's very much about like, yeah, you might not feel like a natural born performer or person that's going to be in the spotlight, yet at the same time, you kind of are. You are someone that should be shining brightly and should embrace their inner theater kid. I was just having a conversation about this, so this is funny. The truth degree to Emily's Rising is a parade of bathing beauties before large beach crowds. And some of the quotes about this degree are, you must look into people as well at them. That's from Lord Chesterfield. And Al Bernstein says, beauty is in the heart of the beholder. And Neil Coward says, sunburn is very becoming, but only when it is even. One must be careful not to look like a mixed grill. Okay. Well, those are interesting quotes. I thought they'd be a little bit more poetic, like Ralph Waldo Emerson, but hey, we got these. Jean Kerr says, I'm tired of all this nonsense about beauty being only skin deep. That's deep enough. What do you want? An adorable pancreas? Oh, that's great. Of course, that's the last degree of Gemini. It's just like, excuse me, what the hell do you want from me? And then the solution degree to Emily's Rising is on a ship, sailors lower an old flag and raise a new one. And that's Cancer 1 degrees, which is the solution degree, or as Linda Hill calls it, the quest degree in the Sapien symbols. This is, I can read you the description once again. It's in this book. Yes, I'm Vanna Whiting again. Linda Hill's 360 Degrees. I know it's old. I have it held together by painter's tape, but it's the best damn book out there, okay? But reading this shows a lot of the like expansion, changes in loyalty, alliances, letting go of old habits, maybe like ditching former belief systems and ways that you process information or just accepted reality for what it is. And it's a lot of turning points, letting go of bad habits, taking the helm, sailors, ships, flags, changing of shifts. This is also the degree of piracy and mutiny and treason. So that's good to know. I love that that's an Aries degree, the 1 degree of Cancer. So that is the solution degree for Emily's Rising. Now, because this is a Gemini rising, we are going right over to the 8th house, where you can see Mercury is stationed retrograde at that 7 degrees of Aquarius, a degree that I know well, as that is where my Pallas Athena asteroid lives and breathes daily. It is a child born out of an eggshell. So in my report to Emily, I did email a full I think it's a 30 plus page report, the astrological profile. I can't remember, honestly. I think it might have been like 36 pages. But I break down your placements, placement by placement. I point out where they are in your chart, what they look like, and that is my astrological profile reading. So if you are interested in working with me, that is the reading that I am currently doing right now for Emily. I am breaking down these things. Normally, I start with Sun, Moon, and then go to Rising, and then the ruling planet for Emily just so happens to be Mercury, which is the next planet I go to, then Venus, Mars, and all that. So very much in the planetary order versus the order of importance in your chart. So with Mercury retrograde in a chart, I mentioned that things take a little bit longer to explain, to go through. I want to talk about Emily's chart because while she is a Capricorn, having your Mercury ruled by Saturn as well as your Sun, we're definitely going to get into Saturn after this. So if you guys aren't familiar with Emily, this is a great time that I think that we can both enjoy some Emily. So this is a video I found on YouTube that shows Emily's moments as a Capricorn in full blown screen time. And I am going to have to do something real quick. Give me just a second. Okay, we did it. Okay. This is Emily is a Capricorn.
Yeah, but I feel like it's more memorializing kind of like this journey I've been on.
You look amazing, Emily. I think it's great that you're doing this.
Thank you. Like I've done this before when I was heavier, like probably 40 pounds heavier, and I had a lot more confidence. But I've gotten to the point where it's almost obsessive. Like it's every day. Like I work out every day. And Shane's like, why don't you take a break?
Yeah.
Why don't you have a rest day? And I don't. I'm so scared about going backwards again. That's why I had kids later, like because I wanted to break the cycle.
I mean, my kids, they just have such a safe environment. I make dinner for them every.
All right. So I am going to pause that there and go over what we saw. First, we're talking about Emily's journey with her body and perfection as someone that has also gone through quite the journey with being a mom and then going through being a former athlete and then getting my own fitness back. Emily's story has been super fun to watch over the years, and it's been really inspiring to see her really flourish. So part of what I wanted to point out is the seventh house, if you look in the chart, is at 29 degrees, starts at 29 degrees Sagittarius. This is a degree that is known as an very quite insecure degree of Sagittarius. Anytime that you get the 29 degree of a sign, that is known as the anaretic degree, like I mentioned before in the rising description that I was talking about. But 29 degrees Sagittarius talks about like the insecurity of constantly trying to prove yourself because you don't view your physical body as something worthy of rest or praise or anything like that. So 29 degrees Sagittarius is represented in the Sabian symbols by a fat boy mowing the lawn. So I'll read the description. A fat boy mowing the lawn shows someone getting up and doing the necessary chores to improve the appearance around the home. The fat boy can be the kid who has everything available to him, but still, for the moment at least, has to do what his family and society says rather than what he may prefer to be doing. It's very much about learning to deal with things that you might not want to do, or you might not get your hands dirty that often. So you, when you do, you just like go all out. It's definitely an interesting thing there. Also, the not having kids till later, I definitely think that with Jupiter in Aries in the 11th house, like having a village and taking a village to raise your children is loud there. So you see Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter. That's why we looked at Jupiter in Aries. But having her Jupiter, her moon, and her Venus and Neptune all in a grand fire trine means that Emily has this revolutionary, fiery personality that may be better, that like the older she gets, the like more it kind of doesn't necessarily intensify. It might like smolder a little bit. So it'll be more smoldering intensity when she gets older versus when she's younger. It's a lot more fire start energy. So let's go back to the video.
Every night before they go to bed, they all have breakfast before they go to school. My husband even brushes my daughter's hair, and that's something that I never had and I never felt. But I feel very happy that I can give that to my children.
I feel very betrayed by Gina. First of all, I've always been mean and aggressive. Hello, welcome to Earth. But secondly, you've known me for 6 years. If we're supposed to be best friends, why are you telling everyone else? I'm pissed at her. Heather's pissed at her. She dug her own grave.
I can't believe that women just used to do this like every day. Like this was like the whole day, every day.
All right, so you guys can see now that Emily's personality, Emily's everything is very much loud. She is going to tell you how it is. And I think that's kind of what, Mercury in Aquarius, especially Mercury retrograde, can do. The chances are that like when you have a Mercury in Aquarius, You might seem a little bit, not robotic, but like alien-like to others. My best friend has Mercury in Aquarius. And yeah, the brashness is there. The reality checks are there. When you have a Mercury ruled by Saturn, especially Mercury retrograde ruled by Saturn at the Libra degree, you are going to tell it like it is to other people, especially that Libra degree at 7 degrees is going to always correlate to that others and the other message. So that's why I mentioned the 7th house being ruled by Jupiter and that being the others there. So getting back to the Sabian symbols for Mercury, which I think is definitely important here. The Aquarius 7 degrees, which is the karmic degree, is a child born out of an eggshell. I do want to mention that, yes, I talked about this being my Pallas Athena degree. It is a degree that indicates when you have placements here or in making aspects to this placement here, that it is somebody that's born into a fragile situation or to a very privileged situation. And sometimes it can be both. I think that's kind of like the benefit of having these placements too, and having that kind of connection with the chart, is that I can see like, oh, while it might have looked privilege on the outside to most everyone, there was a lot of fragility when you look at the actual situation. So that is the karmic degree to Emily's Mercury, which is her chart ruler. Then the truth degree is beautifully gowned wax figures on display. That indicates to me, like if you're looking at this degree, like here I can read you some quotes from it. An Oscar Wilde quote is, "One should either be a work of art or wearer of work of art. Fashion is a potency in art, making it hard to judge between the temporary and the lasting." That's from E.C. Stedman. Nothing's beautiful from every point of view, from Horace. That's an intense thought. But it's all about like changing your style, changing your look, changing all that. And I think we saw in that video preview a lot of Emily's glow up and the things that she has been working really hard on herself to change about her physical shape. And I think that that's really commendable, especially as a woman that is very busy, has kids, and has gone through quite a journey to have kids. That's the other thing that is definitely interesting here, is that 8th house Mercury and the 8th degree of Aquarius being all about beautiful people, people who look about, or people who really care about their looks, people who really focus on glam, people who focus on outer beauty versus inner beauty. And, you know, these things can be easy to focus on, especially when you live in a glamorous area, or the people around you are glamorous and the people around you are different than what you grew up with. And Emily talks about her childhood a lot in her appearance on Real Housewives. So not a lot, but just enough to know that it wasn't like the best of situations at times. So while the 8th degree of Aquarius is all about looking perfect and appearing to be super beautiful and pulled together, it's also about hiding and putting on a false front, obsessions with beauty or fashion, you know, being a certain type of housewife or husband, house husband. It's not just, you know, housewives, but it can show you a lot of the parts of you that you just put on display. So it's about being careful to not just come off a certain way because you like being like that. Like you just to not come off as like, you know, like if you're super smart, which anyone with an Aquarius Mercury is, to not play dumb or to not come off like you don't know something. So that's definitely exciting. Give me just 1 second here. Not technical difficulty. It's just I have a household. It's running in the background. Yay. Part of the solution degree to Emily's Mercury is about feeling transformed, feeling a place of spiritual connection, finding that place that really inspires and can make you feel alive again. There are I mentioned in astrocartography for Emily, there are a lot of indicators that like Salt Lake is super healing for her. So that's kind of cool. So let's pull up that video and continue watching Emily's Capricorn moments.
Need a pizza cutter. Yes, we need a pizza cutter. Okay. It's got to be like this. What happened? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?
Nothing.
What happened?
Nothing.
What's wrong?
Nothing. Fine.
I didn't know that there was going to be this level of emotion with Emily.
Look.
Okay, can you make them smaller? Those look good.
Oh, that's. What is wrong? That's
Nothing.
perfect.
I thought they looked good. I know. I wasn't nice either.
Yeah, what was going on with you and Jen? What was that with the Rolex and the things
I
and the
don't
money?
know. Okay, first of all, it's not about money.
Sounded like it was about money.
It's not about money. It's about integrity.
Emily, did you want to end on some positive note?
Jen needs to pay her bills.
No. Oh my God.
If you want to walk around with a Rolex on while you owe
a
all
gift.
of Orange County money,
I'm not selling my watch. I love my watch.
you're so f***ing stupid. So f***ing sell it and pay back some of your bills.
You went so hard on her.
If you owe a bunch of people money, why are you rolling around with a Rolex? Either hide it or sell it. It tells me that you're stupid.
Okay, don't yell at someone because they're dumb.
I mean, she moves into a house that she can't afford. You know you owe this woman 20 grand, 30 grand, whatever. You're rolling around in your car, not paying your car payment with a Rolex on. Also, the Rolex did not work. I asked her what time it was, and she's like, oh, I don't know, it's broken. It doesn't work. What the f***? I just think it's like, I feel like her personality is just kind of like a lack of accountability. And it just reminds me of my mom. And then you know how I feel about that. That personality type, that whole...
Triggers you.
Yes. It was just hard as a kid because I always...
All right, so that was a note just to pause on because I do want to talk about this last season of Real Housewives of Orange County. A lot of people were on Emily's case for the way that she was going after Jen. So the way that I can delineate this and the way that we can look at this from my point of view and the research that I did, this is what I kind of gathered. When you have a Mercury in Aquarius that is retrograde, things can take a while to come to the surface. Things can take a while for you to understand, to process. Like I said, my best friend has Mercury in Aquarius, and she is one of the smartest people I know, but also takes breaks from being smart because sometimes it is so much, right? So that is the chart ruler. Mercury in Aquarius is the chart ruler since Emily is a Gemini rising. I'm not going to let my speech impediment flare up. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to let myself get got by my own self today. Since Mercury is the chart ruler and Mercury is in Aquarius, Mercury is ruled by Saturn, which we go to Emily's Saturn, which is in the second house, opposing her sun almost exactly, and is also stationed retrograde in the second house. Don't let people who are controversial gimmick astrologers tell you that the second house doesn't have anything to do with values or finances. I've seen that one lately. It's like, it has nothing to do with finances. Finances are man-made. I'm like, whatever. Has everything to do with physical possessions and values and beliefs. And this is a house where Taurus is home to, or is at home in the second house. And since it's the moon ruled second house, the moon is in Leo. So this is going to be a dramatic and expressive moon. We talk about how the moon in Leo can also be just like the child in need of a hug, the child in need of a support system, the child in need of joy. Just because you have Leo placements does not mean joy is easy for you in life. So seeing the moon ruled second house and seeing Cancer in that beginning, the beginning of the second house, that 20 degrees of Cancer. 20 degrees is a Scorpio ruled degree, so that is a degree of depths. And then you go in to see Saturn retrograde in Cancer, which is ruled by the moon, which we see in the third house of this chart, which is ruled by the sun in Capricorn because it is ruled by Leo. So therefore it's ruled by the sun. Like planets rule the houses, or the celestial bodies / luminaries rule the houses, not the zodiac signs. So that's just something to keep in mind. So yeah, the sun rules over the third house, which is where the moon is found in. So dad had a very dominating presence in mom's life when the sun rules over the moon, especially when the sun is in Capricorn, which represents the father. And then we have Saturn here, which is also represents the earthly karmic father of sorts. Saturn is where we can find our greatest lessons and greatest rewards. So with that being said, Emily was just talking about her mom. Let's finish that up and then we can go further into this.
Always had to get myself up, always had to get myself to school. I never had lunch money. I never had a lunch. But then I'm the person I am today because of what I went through. I was never coddled or given anything. Yes, I'm aggressive or mean, but I had to be.
All right, that is where we end that. Mostly because, like, I know that I'm not the only person in the world that is an astrologer that loves the Housewives and wants to talk about them. So I looked up the Real Housewives astrology, and that channel popped up, and that person just like rips into the Housewives and like talks about how much they hate the individual ones. So I'm like, let's not play any more of that channel. It was a great montage to show Emily's and her emotions and her ups and downs. But the 29 degree of Cancer is the anaretic degree of Cancer. We talked about the anaretic degree of Gemini being found in this chart at the ascendant, then the anaretic degree of Sagittarius, which is the insecure about your physical shape degree being found ruling over the 7th house. And so then we find Saturn retrograde at the anaretic degree of Cancer ruling over Emily's part of fortune, or excuse me, 8th house, part of fortune, Mercury, and 9th house. So that's a loaded part of life to deal with, right? To not only have Saturn rule over your 8th house and then 9th house, but also have Saturn in your 2nd house in Cancer. That indicates conflicts around motherhood in general. And one thing that I've admired about Emily the entire time that I've been lucky enough to watch and follow along her journey on the screen as a housewife is her honesty about being a mom and her authenticity around being a woman in business and in law and in the social scene, as well as a mother, as well as a wife. It's not easy. There is not necessarily like a guidebook. There's like, etiquette and all that stuff, of course, that we all learn, but there's no real like, hey, so you are now on the opposite side of where you grew up and everything's different and you have this totally different life. You've worked really hard to deserve it. Other people are going to tear you down and say that you don't, deserve it, but you do. And their, quips about money just reflect their own insecurities about it. Has nothing to do with Emily or her life, right? But Emily's views on the way she says things come from a place of 2nd house, wounded financially in the area of physical resources, and Cancer does represent the mother and the womb and the connection to the mother and the womb. So having Saturn in Cancer in the 2nd house does represent having a little bit of a struggle with the mother figure, especially around finances and providing. And that can trigger a lot of things from childhood, which the moon rules over Cancer, and Cancer is where Saturn is for Emily, and the moon has a really big part in that. So that, childhood energy, that wounded childhood, just because I said like the whole Leo thing, just because you have Leo placements doesn't mean that your life's been some magical performance or magical stage show. I know so many Leo placements that have worked 10 times harder to get where other people just kind of show up, and they are incredible warriors. They are incredible people to have in your corner. Their heart centers and their electromagnetic field are huge. They have incredible hair usually, and if not, they give off the strongest bald person energy ever. You know, like they're just powerhouses. And Leo rules over the heart, and you can tell, people with Leo placements wear their heart on their sleeve, whether they want to or not. Having Mercury opposite the moon in a loose orb, just because, if I didn't know anything about houses, degrees, and all that, and I was just like, okay, Mercury's in Aquarius, moon is in Leo, that's opposing signs, so yeah, okay. But I can tell that Emily was born after full moon, so this is a moon that was slowly decompressing. So having a big grand moon, as well as having a moon in Leo at a Libra degree, mind you. 19 degrees is a Libra degree, and 19 degrees Leo is, if you want to look it up just because it's fun too. 19 degrees Leo is the houseboat. The Dizzy Chickens is 21 degrees Leo. But a houseboat party crowded with revelers, the water reflects its lights. It's like having a great time, but having that time be short-lived, unstable, or kind of like unreal. You might not have a like really great foundation of security and safety. It might just feel like one moving giant party, and you're just like wondering when it's gonna like die down a little bit. So that could have been a little bit of childhood, but really the number one thing that I want to talk about with Emily's moon that I find really interesting is the way that it shows up through her journey in motherhood, right? So the moon, like I was talking about, Cancer does, cover the motherhood experience, and having Cancer in the second house, being a mother is something that you are, very loyally protective of and very like rigid with, and can be like, okay, I just want to teach you all the things in life, but it's because I wasn't taught this kind of energy. Might be a little bit smothering about resources and finances, or might be over the top just to make up for those things. With Saturn retrograde there, you could easily not spoil your kids, but in this situation with that being moon ruled and the moon in Leo, I feel like it's more spoiling kids, which I think is wonderful. I think if you can spoil your children, please do. Teach them solid lessons and teach them to not be jerks, but give them the things that you didn't get to have. That's kind of what we do as parents, speaking from my own experience. Having a moon in Leo might be like not dissociating your experience, but since that is in the third house, and the third house is traditionally home to Gemini, that can be a little bit of putting on a face or putting on a facade. But when I really wanted to dive into this, like I was looking at Emily's journey to becoming a mother and how powerful that was. I don't want to go into too much of it, but I do believe that having all the miscarriages she had and having those traumatic experiences were, horrible. No one should have to go through that. And her journey to becoming a mother was helped by her sister volunteering to have all three of her kids. So I found that really powerful, that the third house represents children, childhood, siblings. The moon is in Leo. So the moon, which represents your relationship to your mother and your relationship to your mothering journey, your emotions within your kind of emotional barometer, right? How you ebb and flow, that is showing up here with the moon in Leo, and that is at the 19 degree, which is a Libra degree, showing the others being important. So her sister, which is sibling, which is the third house, having her children via surrogacy is very prominent there with that 19 degree moon in the third house in Leo. So very powerful there, and I loved hearing that. me just one second. And we're back. So knowing that there's like a huge connection there with the sister and surrogacy and children, Leo does find itself home in the 5th house, which does rule children and that childlike joy that we are all seeking from childhood. So it's definitely powerful. It's definitely something that I think can tell a story. And I think that's where we can see astrology really being like an undeniable thing that keeps happening and showing up in people's charts. And this one was a really powerful find in my research. So since we covered that, we are going to talk about the ruler of the moon. So the moon is ruled by the sun as it is in Leo. And then we go back to the sun, which is in the 8th house. So I know that Emily has mentioned her journey with her parents on the show a little bit. So you guys can put kind of 2 and 2 together if you are familiar with astrology and see the sun in the 8th house. The sun in the 8th house does not have to mean this like dark, horrible thing, right? The sun in the 8th house ruled by Saturn, which Saturn is in Cancer, station retrograde in that 2nd house. Money is always going to be on your mind. Money and belongings and possessions when Saturn in the 2nd house is ruling your 8th house. And part of Emily's struggle has been with not having anything growing up and then later in life having things. So the 8th house, yes, her father was not present and not a strong part of Emily's upbringing or, who she is today, outside of the DNA, I'm sure. But, it's like seeing the sun in the 8th house can mean that your father was a spiritual teacher and taught you a lot about what it meant to be spiritual, what it means to have work ethic or work hard, or maybe your father lent you some knowledge and you work in the family business or some real estate, or there's like all about inheritance there too. This doesn't necessarily mean inheritance from somebody's death. This could mean inheritance from someone that just loved you and left you money in the will. This is, I call the 8th house in sports astrology, I call it the Vegas house, where it's like the gambling, and you can see how things can be with Vegas's money and the odds, and like if it's going to be confusing. Usually then the 8th house is ruled by the moon. It's super murky and confusing if the moon's in like Scorpio or something, or if the moon's just like in who knows where. The moon can just like make a huge impact in the 8th house. So the 8th house being ruled by Saturn in what I call profiling or profile astrology, which is what I'm doing now, I feel as though can be about, the psychological aspects of life. And you might want to go to the depths and like find those intense conversations that transform and change. But they can also be about gifts from other people. And so when you see the part of fortune in Capricorn loosely conjunct the sun, the part of fortune is a little bit of astrology that I am not necessarily rewriting or changing or redoing anything. I'm simply talking about it. A lot of people look at the part of fortune as the co-ascendant in a chart. I see this as, if you know nothing about astrology and you see this symbol, it's either you think it's the X-Man symbol, you think it's like some like treasure map symbol. It's like, it's a universal key for you are here, right? Like it's kind of like you are here, here it is. It's also, if you take that and just take the circle away from it, it's the symbol for earth. So I like to think of it as your earthly gifts, as your earthly treasure chest. for example, mine is in the third house in Virgo, and it is represented by the Sabian symbol of a girls' basketball team, which I think is really funny because of me being on a basketball team with my cousins. It's technically, I think it's a relay race. Let me make sure. I want to make sure that I'm talking about and I'm learning all these and memorizing them slowly. It's a swimming race, and then a caravan of cars, and somebody like promised lands, and then it's a girls' basketball team. So I was on a basketball team with my cousin growing up and a lot of friends from elementary school, and it was like my first like big competitive team that I ever played on, and I thought I wanted to do it more seriously and like join AAU teams. I'm like, no, this is so much. No, thank you. And then I went and played lacrosse, and that was like way more work because I was going out of town for camps. But hey, and games, we traveled everywhere. But it was really fun. And those athletic teams can make you understand like sisterly bonds a little bit better. I didn't get to go to school with a lot of the girls that I played sports with, so we didn't really have that bond as much. But a part of fortune in the 8th house can symbolize gifts from other people. Like I said, this is a house that I call, in profiling astrology, I call it the house of OPP, other people's property, and you can fill in the rest. But Capricorn 21 degrees is a relay race, which is why I said that instead of a swimming race. But 21 degrees Capricorn is a relay race, so I feel like this is like your finances or your relationship to other people's finances go back and forth. Capricorn 22 degrees, which is the truth degree of her part of fortune, is a general accepting defeat gracefully. And that's like winning or losing doesn't matter as long as you know how to play the game type thing. But then the solution degree to her part of fortune is a soldier receiving 2 awards for bravery and combat. So definitely knowing that you have fought some battles, you have done some things, but you deserve the rest and the rewards. So Emily, if you are watching this later on in life or whenever it'll be on YouTube, for as long as YouTube exists, part of what I wanted you to understand about your report is like how much you deserve rest and someone else taking care of you. You have taken care of everyone else for so long that don't feel bad about having the help of others, either financially, physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. You deserve it. You deserve support. You deserve that love and community. And that's what I think your chart says the loudest. So having that Saturn ruled 8th house and Saturn in the 2nd house, and talking about your Saturn ruled sun, it can be, tricky because Saturn opposing your sun, there's a lot about your father and the way that you were raised that possibly constricts your worldview. But that also, to me, is where the nitpicking of Jen in this last season of Real Housewives of Orange County could have come from, because you would do anything to provide for your children, including selling all your belongings to make sure that they could have everything that they needed and not have to deal with, ever going without. So that was really cool to see in Emily's chart as well. You get down to the I guess 4th house. We see 4th house also ruled by Mercury. Since it is a Mercury ruled chart, we can talk about the Mercury ruled houses, which are obviously the 1st house, which starts at 29 degrees Gemini, and then we have the 4th house, which is of home, family, behind closed doors. So for Emily, the 4th house, using Placidus, which you can use whole sign too. I like to use Placidus because it gives you a theme of each house, because once again, the degrees mean so much, and so do the symbols of those degrees. And I can tell you without using any reference book at all that 7 degrees Virgo, which is where Emily's 4th house of home, family, and private life and behind closed doors, as well as it can represent like the grave and beyond, and your ancestors and your roots and your family tree. The degree that kicks off Emily's 4th house is 7 degrees Virgo, which is represented in the Sabian symbols as a harem. So women are of the utmost importance in Emily's life. And I think the Real Housewives obviously show that a little bit. And having that degree, I was reaching for my book. 7 degrees Virgo is that harem degree, and it's all about having a circle of women around you and having women around you in your life, and that is what makes your home life and home and family life easier, and having people that can help you and reach the nurturing side of your soul and like be there for you as, you know, support. One of the quotes for this degree in the Sabian Symbols book is, "A woman who is loved always has success." And while Emily's story about love, which we'll get to when we go into her Venus placement, might not always be the most traditional, Emily has done a really great job of embracing new ways of love, and I think that's cool. But the karmic degree of that fourth house being ruled by the 7 degree of Virgo is that it is also in conjunct, by the way, Mercury. So that's kind of cool since it's ruled by Mercury. But 8 degrees Virgo is a girl takes her first dancing instruction. And then Virgo 9 degrees is an expressionist painter making a futuristic drawing. So I told Emily in the reading that I sent her that painting and being an artist, and like she's like this low-key brilliant artist of some sort. Like I don't know what medium, maybe dancing is something that she might get into, or that could be, because since that's the truth degree to her fourth house, that degree that kicks it all off. I think maybe painting at home or finding some artistic like arts and crafts way of spending time at home, or finding like what speaks to her to do behind closed doors would be really cool, especially because Juno's in her fourth house as well, Juno retrograde. Yeah, so I like that fourth house being about having powerful relationships with women behind closed doors. Her Juno is my exact degree of my part of fortune. So that whole, I like how I was like, oh yeah, I don't know why I'm telling you all this. Her Juno is at that a swimming race degree, and then the truth degree of that is a caravan of cars heading for promised lands, which to me symbolizes her moving far away from home, since that's in the fourth house in retrograde. And then 21 degrees Virgo, which is the solution degree for her Juno retrograde in the fourth house, is represented by a girls basketball team. So girls on a team of some sort, I feel like that could be Housewives. I feel like that could be sports. You could look at it from all angles. Like it's definitely something that you could see in a multitude of ways. You guys can feel free to look at Emily's chart real quick, and I will be right back. Just a reminder, if you guys are tuning in for first time or just stopping by and wanting to know what I'm doing, I do want to remind you that the stream on YouTube has some links that you can donate to the California wildfires and rescuers, as well as animal rescue with the horses that Emily Simpson on Instagram has been sharing. So just let you know, if you pop over to YouTube, they are there in the comments. All right. So we are back with the chart where we left off with the fourth house and how cool that Juno retrograde was in the fourth house with the symbols. And then we go into the fifth house. Give me 1 second. the fifth house, which is ruled by Venus. There we go. Oops. My necklace was turned around. I don't want that to happen. And then we see Venus in the sixth house, right? So fifth house ruled by Venus, and fifth house is like when you're in love. You can feel that joy and that like big heartfelt sensation. And that's like very much fifth house energy / Leo energy, since Leo is where you find, or the fifth house is where you find Leo in the traditional house rulership. So I'm not trying to confuse anybody. I'm just trying to go over as much as I can for people who might not know astrology like everyone else that normally watches all of my feeds. Because it's like I do a lot of explaining with the sports astrology, and with this I'm kind of just zooming through it and trying to talk about as much as I can. But with the fifth house ruled by Venus, because it is right there, you can see Libra, 11 degrees. Pluto is also right on that fifth house cusp. So super interesting to see fifth house Pluto. You know, fifth house does represent a rule over children and joy and lovers and hobbies and gambling, which is fun. So like, hey, Emily could be a really good gambler. We don't know. Or if there's an episode that I missed that showed that, then yeah, my bad. 11 degrees Libra is a professor peering over his glasses at students. So I mentioned in this that teaching and being a teacher is something that was kind of in Emily's chart, whether she liked it or not. And she was a Spanish teacher for a few years from my research. So that's cool. Then 12 degrees Libra, which is the truth degree to her Pluto, is miners are emerging from a deep coal mine. So I know in Ohio that there are, because my family is from Ohio on my mother's side. Ohio has a lot of blue collar and strong like industries there. So I thought that was cool that could have been something that was part of her childhood. And then it was just like that degree and that symbol with the miners emerging from a coal mine. That's very much a symbol of working hard and having a super hard work ethic, which I don't need to tell you. I feel like coal miners obviously have a very hard work ethic and a dedication to what they do, because that's dangerous. That's a lot. The solution degree to her Pluto, which is in the fifth house, is children blowing soap bubbles. So I can say this as somebody with Pluto in the fifth house. It's also the placement of helicopter parenting. So I have to be careful of not being too much of a helicopter mom and not being like too much, okay, where are you? What's going on? How is this? What's that? It's like, let the kids run around the neighborhood and play safely and have the trust in them that they are all good. You don't need to put geo trackers on your children all the time, but it's this day and age, understandable why people might be a little bit more paranoid. It's completely understandable. So also with Pluto in the fifth house, art and creating art and just being creative in general is something that is super important to anyone that has Pluto in the fifth house. The other placements that we see here that we haven't mentioned happen to be ones that are, I think, quite important, because Uranus in the fifth house, the ups and downs of anyone that might follow astrology and is advanced in astrology. I think Emily's journey to motherhood could definitely be seen through having Uranus in the fifth house here. Uranus is like sudden changes, surprises, back and forth. Innovations could also represent surrogacy because it's very innovative. But Uranus also squares exactly Emily's Mercury retrograde in the eighth house, which is ruling over her chart. So when we see that, Emily's got all these ideas and like has all this mental prowess and ways of observing and seeing things in a different light, seeing things through a different lens, and reframing ways that we might see things or classics or just in general, who knows, just art and creations of art in general. Like 11 degrees is an Aquarian degree. And so Pluto at that Aquarian degree in the fifth house is already going to make you like connected to realms and things that we might not even understand yet. But then Uranus squaring Mercury, that fifth house and eighth house, that is really showing up a lot as innovation, changes in ideas, changes in your, like changing your opinion, going back and forth in your opinion and the way that you view the world or the way that you feel about others, or, you know, your love and your trust in others. And with the fifth house also being lovers, changes in lovers. I want to mention that Scorpios are very important in Emily's life, as her vertex and her north node are conjunct in the fifth house. And to me, that represents, you know, that kind of lover's energy, just because it is there in the fifth house. I am going to see if I can get this fixed real quick to where I can pull up. Okay, it's working. So I can switch back to the one where you don't get to see me just looking confused. That's not what it is. That's so funny. I'm going to look up Shane, because I've never looked and saw what zodiac sign he is. This is fun. You guys can just watch me look things up. Okay. Doesn't have his time, or doesn't have any information of when he was born. We'll try this again. I like that they tied the knot at the Bellagio in Vegas on Valentine's Day in 2009, because that was when Capricorn, Pluto was in Capricorn in Emily's seventh house. So that was like getting married. That's really, really cool. So I did not find Shane's birthday, but I'm sure I'll find it after the show. Just wanted to do a quick search just to see, just because I think that anyone that she has in her life for a long time would either be Scorpio, Sagittarius, or possibly another Capricorn, who knows. But yeah, maybe if he's a Leo, that also makes sense, or an Aries too, because with that Jupiter and Chiron in the 11th house, that could definitely be something. So hey, who knows? I'll find out. And I also have a shirt from Emily's collection. It's like Good Morning to All My Friends and Haters, that collection. So I'll be wearing that on Saturday when I do my live stream. But yeah, definitely wish it would have gotten here. I think all the blizzards and everything else, I'm just glad that I got my book. And if you haven't seen this already, this is my Astrology of 2025 book that I was lucky enough to write with 3 other brilliant astrologers, and now we're all published authors. So what a feat, right? Like, what a cool flex that we got to work on that together. So very fun. And that is available for pre-order on Amazon. We are getting more books, more copies printed very soon, and I'm excited to show that to you. We'll have an announcement before the Super Bowl, so that's all I'll say. I'm not giving you like a specific time frame, just very vague. So with her Venus ruled fifth house, like we were talking about, all those placements have influence from Venus. Venus is found in that sixth house, right? In that sixth house at the Scorpio degree. Once again, that's why I was like, I think Shane's a Scorpio. I don't know why, but I'm just like convinced he's a Scorpio. It's fine. I am going to pull up Emily Simpson moment real quick, and it explains her kind of like experience with how she got married. I guess like Shane, well, no, I'm not going to pull up the video because it just goes on to like a lot of other things, but it goes into how her and Shane met at work. And so I'm like, a 6th house Venus, loosely conjunct Neptune, both in Sagittarius, and you were going out with your boss technically. And then my favorite is that he's like, you want to get married, and so her Venus, her Jupiter, and her moon are all in a grand trine, and that is her Jupiter. To me, is very much a marriage placement. It can tell you a lot about the person you're marrying and like the theme of your marriage. The moon is all about emotional regulation and connection, and also like connection to motherhood and how your mother showed up in your life. And then Venus, of course, is planet of justice as well as love and your relationships and belief systems and how that shows up. So with Emily, very worldly, right? Like super worldly. And also with that Venus in Sagittarius at the 20 degree, the solution degree to her Venus is 22 degrees Sagittarius, which is known to me, the Sabian symbol and degree expert, as the degree of foreigner. So the fact that she married somebody from a different culture as well as religion, from her upbringing and her background, really shows the foreigner degree, and especially that it was a coworker, being that 6th house of daily routine, coworkers, jobs. Not career, to me, is found more in the 10th house, of course, and that is ruled by Jupiter in the 11th house for Emily. So yeah, very much community driven, very much anchored in socializing and being social and like childlike in social situations. Healing childhood through social status at times can be a thing, because we're looking at that Jupiter and Chiron conjunction in Emily's 11th house ruled by Mars, right? So one thing that we haven't talked about is Emily's Mars. I haven't brought up this 12th house Mars yet because, oh my gosh, it is a powerful Mars retrograde opposite Neptune. Emily sees the best in people, but she also sees right through people to the point where you cannot hide anything from this woman. She's incredibly mentally driven, mentally, intellectually superior than a lot of people that she's going to run into in life. So yeah, she's going to get annoyed with dumb shit and, you know, dumbass energy. It's going to be like, can you get to your point? Can you make your point? Very much strong-worded, strong-willed. With Mars retrograde currently happening right now, conjunct Emily's Saturn, themes around children and relationships to mother could be a little bit rocky at the moment, or could be better than ever and could be like in a place of peace, just because Mars retrograde is almost like putting down your weapons and going into the kitchen and baking bread instead. And that is a different set of utensils, which could be still used as weapons. But, you leave it to a Cancer Mars to use kitchen utensils as weapons. But there's just so much about the healing and recovery of that, like becoming your own father figure with this Mars retrograde in Emily's 2nd house. So I don't know what's going on in that regard, since I don't talk to Emily like that, but having Mars ruled 11th house means your Mars and Gemini, you are going to be super not cautious, but you're going to be inquisitive to like, who are these people I'm surrounding myself with? What are they made of? What do they believe in? Are those beliefs aligned with me? Can I challenge them? Can I poke at them? Can we have that sibling-like competitiveness? With Mars and Gemini, though, and especially in the 12th house, you are seeing a very subconscious competitive person that might have other people just competing with her, and she's not even aware. She's just like, excuse me, I'm existing and I'm just doing my thing. And why are people trying to fight me or trying to race me or whatever? Road rage can definitely be a thing with Mars retrograde in the 12th house. There's also Ceres in the 12th house at that 1 degree retrograde. So I do want to mention the one thing that I forgot to really touch on with the 29 degree 29 degrees in degree theory is known as the super clairvoyant degrees. So Emily's Mercury retrograde and Mars retrograde, like Mercury retrograde, in my opinion, helps people talk to other realms even more. Like this is the placement of people just hearing thoughts, downloads, information, being psychically in tune with realms around you that other people might not understand. Of course, with Mercury retrograde, that might be something that you experience later in life. That might be something that you don't experience till you're much older, especially with Mercury in Aquarius like that, the ancient feeling. I do want to mention another thing with Capricorn placements. One thing about Emily that she has shown, that vulnerability that we kind of showed with that YouTube clip at the very beginning about her body and her fluctuating size and how she's really tapped into her fitness element, but like kind of doesn't know how to just hit it like a normal person. She's just like in the gym 7 days a week, doesn't know how to stop. That's very Capricorn of her. But what's also Capricorn of her is getting better with age. I have always seen people with a Saturn ruled 7th house being people that age much better than others. So Leo risings and Cancer risings, you're welcome. And seeing Jupiter in the Saturn ruled decan of Sagittarius there, I think that is as much of a Sagittarius or as much of a Saturn ruled 7th house as it gets. Especially with that anaretic degree ruled 7th house. So yeah, getting better while older, blossoming, late bloomer, or blossoming at a later age is definitely a theme with that. And having your Venus opposite your Mars retrograde, that's something that I feel like can be really conflicting. Like literally Emily got married because Shane messaged her on Google Chat like, hey, you want to get married? All right, cool. Let's do this. And yeah, that might sound like contractual or, oh, it wasn't love. But like for somebody that has as many Capricorn placements as that and somebody that has a 12th house Mars retrograde ruled by Mercury retrograde, which is ruled by Saturn retrograde in the 2nd house in Cancer, which is ruled by the moon and Leo at a Libra angle where you're just like, you're hanging on. You have a sun ruled moon. Like, life doesn't get better until you kind of free yourself and become your own authority figure. And that's exactly what Emily did. She talked about how she wanted out of her situation. So she worked really hard and got out of it. And just because you marry well doesn't mean that you're like all of a sudden taken care of. There's everyone has problems. Doesn't matter how much money you have. Everyone's going to have problems, right? So thinking that struggle or strife doesn't show up anymore because, you know, oh, you're older and you have money. Like, that's not the case. Things can always happen. Part of Emily's journey with her Mars in the 12th house is seeing her anger as something that can drive her to do great things, and seeing where she feels injustice in the world is happening, especially that Mars retrograde opposite Venus. Being philanthropic is a big, big part of Emily's life with her 11th house, Jupiter, Chiron, South Node, as well as her 6th house, Venus and Neptune. And then like helping others that cannot help themselves, helping victimized and marginalized people is something that's really big in Emily's life too. So I'm a huge fan of all of her placements. I'm a huge fan of Emily in general. I think that she is a powerful representation of a woman that has been open, authentic, and shared her flaws and her strengths and her wit and her intellect and her beauty with us, and she shared her journey with that. It's not something that's like, no, I've never had work done. She shares, I mean, you could literally just look up on Instagram or YouTube like Emily Simpson, and it's like all sorts of different appearances show up. You know, she's very much of the community. She's very much a hands-on mother, very much somebody that enjoys the nice things in life, but also gives back a lot. So if you missed it, we are going to be doing, we're sharing more links. I have shared on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, I've shared the links on the YouTube comment section. I'm going to share in, excuse me, on Twitter how you can help, and I'll be doing that in the comments. Here's one link. Copy. Yeah, number 1, live editing, remember? I don't mind live editing. I'm doing a live show, so there you go. Yeah, now there is more ways to help underneath, and you guys can help with the wildfire rescues of Altadena. That's where Storm the Martian, who is located out in the LA area, was mentioning that they need more help than usual just because it's a underserved area. And it's a way that people can get the word out for helping people with the wildfires out in California. There's no way I could do an episode of the Real Housewives of Orange County profile and not include ways to help what's going on in California right now. So I know that Emily on her Instagram story has been doing a lot of sharing ways you can help, and especially the horse rescue that she shared. So I have that in the Linktree link on YouTube, as well as in the comments on Twitter. So these are the 2 places I'm streaming it, which is good. One thing that I do want to mention that is really cool about Emily's chart is that she has a chart that we can like kind of follow along and see all of her moments in. Like, she shows up really well on camera. That 3rd house, Moon, 3rd house. Whenever I see people that are really like photogenic and that are beautiful and like show up on camera and like kind of light up the camera and light up wherever they go, I definitely look to their 3rd house and 9th house placements, just because I see that so much as being on camera and like the film and art industry in general. So very much big expansive topics, as well as the finer details with that Mercury ruled versus Jupiter ruled 3rd and 9th house. So not that Emily's 3rd house is ruled by Mercury, but it's like the traditional places where Gemini is in the 3rd house, Sagittarius is the 9th house. So the more you guys learn and grow with me, you can learn about that in the Astrology of 2025, co-wrote by the incredible Alessia and Amanda and Jamal and me. Yeah. So it's definitely fun to have this book out. Let's look and see real quick just before I head out here. I'm going to pull up the list of new moons for the year ahead. On January 29th, Emily is going to be having a new moon in Aquarius at 9 degrees Aquarius, conjunct her Mercury in the 8th house. So that'll be cool. That could be possibly like a new collaboration, a partnership, a contract of some sort, a deal that she gets to launch. Then let's see, the new moon in Pisces on February 27th is going to be conjunct Emily's MC. So that could be another business deal. I'm over here like, yeah, business. There's a career, there's a huge solar eclipse happening in Emily's house of career in the 10th house with the solar eclipse at 9 degrees Aries. It's really funny how the first 3 new moons of this year are at 9 degrees. I love that. Then at the, I don't see anything for Taurus. Then new moon, 4 degrees Cancer, no. Not hitting on anything for Leo. Libra, no. Nope, no new moons touching on anything too major. There will be one loosely conjunct Emily's descendant and then also Venus. December 19th of 2025. But this full moon that just happened for Emily on January 13th, aka I think that was Monday. I don't know what day it is. If you talk to any parent right now that survived the blizzard and doesn't know what day it is, or any entrepreneur that never really pays attention to the days except for like meetings. That's also me. We're just lost. But January 13th, the full moon was at 24 degrees Cancer. That was loosely conjunct her Saturn retrograde in the second house, as well as opposite her part of fortune and Sun in the 8th house. So hopefully everything with Emily's family and friends were okay with that second and 8th house, representing physical possessions and other people's property, the OPP house, as well as psychological depths, taboo, death, and real estate contracts and all that. So interesting. The full moon in Leo coming up on February 12th around Valentine's Day for Emily will be loosely conjunct her moon in the 3rd house. And then we have a lunar eclipse that will be happening in her 4th house. And then we'll have a full moon in Libra, not really conjunct anything, but directly opposite her Chiron. That'll be in April, so that'll be a pretty healing full moon. Then June 11th, there's a full moon at 20 degrees Sagittarius, which is exact her 6th house Venus. So that could be super romantic or fun, or maybe like a trip is planned for that time. Full moon, 22 degrees Scorpio that I skipped over in May. That's going to be conjunct her North Node in the 5th house. So maybe a new creative project is debuted around May 12th of this year. So yeah, I'm not going to go too far into it, but if you want to have all the full moon dates right there in a workbook, and then let's skip to a random full moon. Here's the one that is conjunct her Venus in Sagittarius. There's a full moon right there. Breakdown, the Sabian symbol breakdown. If you guys want to see that again, you have the Sabian symbols, and then there is a ritual thanks to Alessia, the incredible moon ritual queen, and then place to write notes. Paperback, I will say, is easier to write notes in, so definitely cool. But yeah, I am super geeked that we got to go over this amazing chart. I am honored that the Housewives women trust me so much with letting me read their charts and, do this on camera. I reach out to them. It is something that they can choose to ignore. I've had people tell me no before, or just ignore my requests. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I know that your astrology chart is something that is safely, or that should be safely guarded and should be taken seriously. I am breaking that stigma with my own chart, as I like to share placements of mine. We'll see if I ever do a profile of myself. I think it'd be cool to just like show how I use the Sabian symbols somehow with my own chart. But even as of this morning, I was driving my youngest to school, and he looked over and he was like, and he's a Scorpio, a 7th house Scorpio stellium, by the way. So he's very reserved and skeptical about his beliefs, and he's not quick to just fully believe or buy into anything. And he and I were talking, and he's like, so you can just know what's going to happen to me this month? I'm like, yeah, sure. Let me just pull up real quick. And while I was not driving, I had his chart pulled up. And I go, yeah, you got blah, 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 blah. And he goes, how did you know that? I was like, well, and he's like, I now know why people call you a witch. And I couldn't have been more flattered. All the praise in the world from clients is amazing. All the praise in the world from other astrologers is amazing. All the praise in the world from the outside world is great. But when I can help the people that I love the most, my own children and my family, the people in the 4 walls, I often say that I don't care about anyone else outside the 4 walls. That's not true. But I am not, in constant communication with very many other people because my own home life is so busy. So these shows where I can like share little bits of my personal life mixed in with the things that I love doing, like astrological profiles, as well as the things that I love watching, like the Real Housewives. Like, this has been a franchise that I've truly grown up with. And I want to say thank you to these women for being brave enough to put your personal life out there, just like having your chart out there. Yeah, people can, look at your chart and know more about you. It's very vulnerable to share your chart with other people. So yes, I understand why protecting that magic. It's also, I think athletes and public figures are used to having every bit of information about them documented, recorded, and analyzed for stats purposes. So if sports stat nerds just knew how powerful learning astrology charts and stats could be for helping predict the games and player performance, they would just start asking the players, and I wouldn't have to learn them all and hunt them all down myself. But slowly but surely I am doing that. And it's really important to me to be able to share when things are lighthearted and fun, like this one was. Emily's life by no means is like the easiest life that she had growing up. I'm not saying it's all lighthearted and fun. I am defending people who have other people take care of them. It can be really triggering to watch somebody else have everything that you want, or have somebody have provided for them everything you want or say you want. So I get it. It can be a lot for viewers to see Emily tearing down Jen when she's going through all that stuff. But at the same time, it comes from a place of protection for those that she loves, to be like, how could you do that? And yeah, I'm one of firm belief that it is everything in this world to have a great relationship with your kids, your family, the people that are related by blood to you. It is a gift. Not everybody gets that. Not everybody is lucky enough to have that. So if you are lucky enough to be able to talk to your blood relatives and communicate with them, they might not always be your favorite people, but being able to share connection and stories and common ground, dare I say, enjoying people that might have different views than you, is going to be a theme of 2025, and learning how to get along regardless. I think that's definitely a big theme, and it's going to be powerful to see people actually put an effort into that. So if anything, I'm looking forward to people being able to see these women in a lens of not necessarily like accepting or making excuses for anything that they've ever done, but seeing their pain or their struggles, or why they are the way that they are, or why they show up the way that they do. Emily's very emotional on camera. That shows up loudly with her moon, which is your emotional pressure gauge and the way that you connect to nature's timing. Women are ruled by that 28-day cycle that goes and correlates with the moon. So women being in touch with the lunar cycles and being in touch with themselves is really important. And that's something that Emily can do to maybe improve her spiritual side and balance out some of that divine feminine rage with divine feminine insight that we all have innately. Men being ruled by that 24-hour solar cycle, it's like a different get up and go in most men. So it's cool to see these things kind of show up. Emily also being born on a Sunday, that day being ruled by the sun with its name literally in there. It's cool because that also correlates to her moon in Leo, which is ruled by the sun as well, her sun in Capricorn. So the sun is very important to her. It's very much something that she needs in order to feel alive and connected to everything else. So tropical type atmospheres and bright sunlight is definitely something that helps her feel good and warm and full, most like everyone else that is in the dead of winter right now. And I am definitely one of them. Yes, I still have up my Christmas tree until Capricorn season is over. Then it might still be up. I don't know. We'll see. I feel like I can probably take it down before I do my playoff show on Saturday. But in case you are not going to be here for that, thank you for tuning in to my astrological profile of Emily Simpson, and having that like big moment of knowing that I was able to share this chart with the right birth time. Hopefully my astro theme, I guess, accredited birth time score goes up. I can continue having more scores accredited to me and all my research. I will be back in Aquarius season with Brynn Whitfield from Real Housewives of New York. I was lucky enough to grab her birth time 2023, I believe. And as long as it hasn't like changed or updated, I'll probably reach back out to her and make sure. But I do have that correct one. It was an estimate. So of course I will be doing a rounded up kind of chart. Like we'll talk about her Taurus rising, and we'll talk about her Gemini moon, and we'll talk about her Aquarius sun, and how that kind of correlates to her showing up on the show. And definitely, I'll enjoy that one because having a Gemini moon myself, it'll feel like I am relating to a close friend, and I'm excited about that. So thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, you can check out my Astrology of 2025 book. There's the graphic. There's the book. It is jam-packed full of information, ways to tap in and to really work with the cycles of nature instead of against the cycles of nature, as a lot of us have been raised to do. I want to say thank you to Emily Simpson for once again trusting me with your birth chart, and I hope that you enjoyed the reading, the public one as well as the one that I sent. And yeah, I will be back on Saturday morning with my Good Morning Friends and Haters shirt from Emily Simpson's official line. It'll get here when it gets here, and I'm super excited to be able to have another shirt to wear on another stream. And since that one will be in the morning, it'll be a perfect fit. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Once again, my name is Gracey with Northern Astrology. I am looking forward to next season's guest, Brynn Whitfield, not guest, but spotlight. That'd be really cool if she wanted to be a guest on the show. I would definitely love that. And we can catch up and talk about all the things of Aquarius season and what makes them amazing. Just like we were talking a little bit about what makes Capricorn people so amazing, and their diligent work ethic definitely takes the cake. So please bless me. Please hug a Capricorn in your life as much as you can. It's not just their work ethic, it's their ethics in general. It's the standards of living they have for everyone in their life. It's the way they incessantly climb to the top because they deserve to be at the top, because they know what they're doing. They are outstanding leaders when they're taking care of themselves and resting themselves accordingly. And you can't just say that work ethic is the only thing and then pop off. So I'm glad that my sneezes stopped me from doing that. But I think that Capricorns do not get the love that they deserve. I saw on Twitter that like Capricorns are the real yearners and the ones that pine for others. And like no one does slow burn quite like Capricorn placements. So the smoldering intensity is definitely something, like I said, for Emily, that I believe is her kind of like strength, right? So seeing that she has her Capricorn, here I can just pull it right back up, Capricorn Sun opposite her Capricorn, or her Saturn in Cancer, is just like, it explains just a little bit more, you know, having who you are wrapped up a little bit in who your father was and how he treated you, and maybe the unknown of all that opposite the karmic kind of pressure, even though Saturn is retrograde in her second house, that coming from the mother relationship with that being ruled by the moon. It's a lot. And I think that people kind of forget sometimes that while these housewives are incredible powerhouses on camera now and in this form, they might not always have been that way. So I love the backstory. I love being able to shine a light on the gifts and the joys and the fun parts of these women. And I think all of them are rock stars once again for sharing their lives and being brave enough to like be on camera, because being on camera isn't easy. You know, as someone that's been on camera the last 20 weeks in a row, it's felt like. Has it been 20 weeks in a row? I don't know. I think so. I started going in September, the first week of September, and I haven't stopped. So that's only been like 3.5-ish months, but If I was better at math, I'd break that down. Anyways, I think that there's something about that authenticity that you can translate to being on camera versus people that get on camera. And I see it. I see people all the time that are like really big loudmouths, you know, behind closed doors. And they're always like, I could do what you do. And then they get on camera and then they freeze and you're just like, what were you saying? And that's when you can be like, this is why I do what I do, because I'm comfortable here. But it's not always easy. It's not always comfortable just because you have third house placements. So I digress. I'm super glad that I could be here and help share this chart with you all, help share my process with you all, and share a little bit more about the magic of Miss Emily Simpson. You are an incredible woman. You are an inspiration to so many. Keep being wonderful and shine as brightly as you do, because you deserve to. I'm Gracey with Northern Astrology, and I will see you next time.